Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jade Turan, and I work for FFKR Architects here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And today we are going to be talking about physical space and changes our spaces may have due to the very unusual time in our state and in our country right now. I am joined with our very own in-house design strategist, Mary Sorensen, and she's going to discuss some topics at hand that have evidence-based design thinking woven in to her slides that she's going to share with us. So Mary, thank you for joining us.
Hey Jade, this is great. I'm really excited about the opportunity to share some of this thinking and some of the opportunities. I know it's a very hard time, but thinking ahead to the future, I think there are some real positive changes that we might be looking at in the way we use space for our offices, for employees, for the way we do work going into the future. So let me go ahead and start my slides and share them with you. So this idea of reprioritizing and repurposing space. I have worked in the past with a lot of companies that looked at space not necessarily as a cost or a liability line item on the balance sheet, but as a way to strategically use that investment to meet specific organizational objectives and ultimately to increase the ROI and the bottom line for their businesses. But as we look forward, we are seeing that COVID-19 is changing everything. It's changing the way we engage with businesses or entertainment, the way we go to the built environment, the way we have for years has changed radically. And we don't know exactly what that's going to look like going forward, but we're beginning to get some early indications on what changes that might make. We've been pushed rapidly into new territory and being forced to adapt the ways that we do things. And the workplace is certainly a major arena for this, where we have quickly had to learn to work remotely, get our individual work done, collaborate with our peers, communicate, and be able to do our jobs in a very different environment. It's going to take some time to really understand the impact of this rapid change, the trade-offs, and to be able to make a solid plan to move ahead. As we get close to and constantly moving towards this new normal, it's going to take some due diligence to really understand what that new normal is going to look like. So within the workplace arena, the lid is off Pandora's box. This is going to be a real major inflection point in the evolution of workplace design. For quite some time, and since technology has enabled mobility and the ability to work and accomplish tasks outside of the office, employees have been seeking more flexibility in where they work. They are pushing for that as they see it bringing the benefits of balancing work-life aspects. And while employees are always trying to manage that balance between how much space they need and how much money they're spending on space, we've seen density, right? We've seen a decrease in the amount of space dedicated to each employee at their workplace or with amenities. So these two things have been going on, but all of a sudden, employers are realizing that maybe those reservations they had about flexible work and remote work are unnecessary. So if that happens and we say, well, people don't need to come to the workplace anymore to get their work done, I can offload this real estate, I think there are some possible real consequences to that type of scenario. And we're going to talk about and explore a little bit more about that. So really, to create an impactful and effective workplace, it's not necessarily the simple of equation of 100 employees at 100 square foot per. Shoot, if I can send them home to work, then I can simply reduce that liability from my lease or my own property, from my real estate portfolio. Because really, overall, we're looking at changing norms. People are getting used to a very different way of going about their day. There's a heightened awareness of space and our discomfort with density. So with these changing proxymetrics, what is my sense of personal space now? And as offices increased in density, that benching or flexible hoteling space, there's a loss of comfort, I think, with that previous office model. We have changing ideas about what it means to be safe. So shared resources, a shared desk, a shared keyboard, that kind of comes with some new baggage that will need to be addressed as we think about how people work in the office in the new normal. Additionally, employees have experienced the benefit of this change in work-life balance as they lose their commute. And we see, they aren't stuck in traffic going to work, and they have that time to pursue differently. By the same token, many remote workers who are new to this are finding challenges in separating personal life from work life when it's all happening in that same environment in their homes. We've seen the demonstrated positive environmental impacts. Hopefully there will be some reticence or some resistance to just going back to the same old, same old. So in general, I think the future of the workplace will not be a return to that pre-COVID-19 workplace. There will be new expectations around flexibility. And as we've had this experience with isolation, a new appreciation for the collegiality of working with our peers and our colleagues, but some expectation for less density and new expectations around safety. When we think about the office today, we think about it as the place we go to work. It's built around spaces and materials, desks, seating, office rooms that support both concentration for the individual employee and places to come together and collaborate, whether those are conference rooms or breakout spaces. So there really is a focus on these two functions. But now that we've identified the ability to do that outside the four walls of our corporate offices, why do we need to come back to the office? And what does the office need to provide us when we get there? So going forward, I think there's going to be the need to focus on 4 C's. We need to move beyond concentration and collaboration and really begin to focus on and give space and attention to the elements of community and culture brand. Because now the onus will be on the office to make people feel connected and engaged in their work and committed to their coworkers, and that their contribution to the mission and the purpose of the organization matters. And the space, the office, can play a very important role in doing that. But, why is that important? Because really, all offices, all businesses have a motivation to get the most out of their employees, to get the most productivity, to get the best ideas. And to do that, we really need to ensure that we are supporting employee well-being. There's been a lot of attention given to creating well buildings and well spaces, paying attention to things like ergonomics and lighting, biophilic experiences. But we're moving beyond that now, I think. And people have felt their health and safety threatened, and the workplace needs to support their employees, support that emotional well-being of connection. We're getting outside of isolation now, and creating a safe place to come. And we'll talk, that sense of safety has a lot of different nuances to it, whether it's maintaining social distancing, whether it's policies and protocols for cleaning, disinfecting, personal etiquette of hygiene. So those things are definitely part of the new normal in the workplace. But engagement, people have already reported in a number of global studies the feeling of isolation and the feeling of disconnection to the greater collection of focus and mission and accomplishment. Culture brand, or we also need the space to reflect the brand, to help hire and retain top talent, and externally to help demonstrate the strength of the brand to potential clients and the others that we engage with. So this concept of community, why does it really matter, and what is it? Well, community creates a sense of belonging, a common bond, an interdependence to others beyond ourselves, and it helps establish and build those relationships that are built on friendship and trust. And when we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the fact that we spend at least 36% of our waking hours working, there's sort of an imperative that the place where we work should help support these needs, physiological needs, okay, shelter from the weather, safety needs. We talked about that. There has to be a provision and a sense of safety in this environment. But these softer elements, love, belonging, esteem, there is a real value in fostering those sorts of human, those aspects of the human condition. It decreases stress. There again, you have employee well-being. It will help to increase engagement in the work that's being done, which is certainly what we would hope that all of our employees have, a sense of engagement, contribution, value of their work, and better cooperation and decision-making amongst teams. When there is friendship and trust and that sense of shared objective, the work is done at a higher level. And when people are engaged and feel safe and confident and valued and trusted, they are more likely to stay with that employer, and you have reduced turnover. And we all know that there are significant costs associated with recruiting and hiring and onboarding and training new talent. The quote at the bottom I've included because this isn't just some data and research that's been done in the value of teams and relationships and trust in effective organizations. So Charles Pellerin headed the Hubble Space Telescope project for NASA, and millions of dollars were put into that project that failed. And he looked back to really understand what happened. He definitely had the brightest team, the most capable set of individuals to tackle this project, but ultimately they failed. And what the research found was that they failed because they did not work as a team. And when you think about the requirements of a highly effective team, friendship, trust, collaboration, the idea that I am working with people that I can take risks, I can share new ideas, what they faced was the safety and the trust to be able to expose issues in the system without ramifications. And what happened is what happened. And NASA, he's written a book, NASA has adopted many different tools for ensuring that future teams work are optimized and work well together. The other reason that space is important is in community building. Even though we've identified that we can collaborate and problem solve and move a project forward, the bottom line is we are human. First and foremost, we're wired for interaction. We look to others for facial cues. You know, are we on track with this information? Are you understanding me? Should I stay on course with what I'm saying or pivot? Technology cannot replace that face-to-face interaction. With one interesting side note, it's interesting to find that special needs students are thriving in digital classrooms. So we always need to remember that one size does not fit all. However, neurologists and neuroscientists have been studying the impact of digital world technology, virtual experiences on our human experience. And what they have found is technology can't replace that analog human interaction. The human experience is what they deem unmediated. It's random, it's serendipitous, it provides the opportunities for inspiration, whereas technology is everything occurs within a structured set of bounds. You have choices, you don't have to go linearly, but it's not random. It's mediated, it's bounded, it lacks that opportunity for freer expression, let's say. So within that, you can effectively foster relationships, trust, and innovation. Another element of this remote work is distance. And research back in the 70s, researchers looked to see what was the impact on distance on communication, and found that the further teams were or individuals were from each other, the less frequently they communicated. And this has been reassessed, given that technology should be able to break those bounds of distance. It should be able to bridge that gap. The fact is, the research demonstrated the Allen curve still holds in a technologically enabled world. Out of sight, out of sync. In fact, people who shared physical space increased the likelihood of communicating, even through digitally, emails, chatting through Skype, whatever. That likelihood of staying in contact increased 20%. Additionally, if a team, a set of colleagues were co-located, they emailed 4 times as frequently with each other as their distributed co-parts, so test and control. So those teams that were distributed, they worked and completed their tasks more slowly. The ones that were co-located, they resulted in 32% faster project completion, excuse me. And you know, that's interesting because the very companies that are enabling this remote and virtual work are the same companies that know that being co-located, having that human interaction is critical to innovation, creative thought, being a leading company. Amazon has 13 million square feet in Seattle alone. Recently, Facebook has been expanding in the Bay Area as well as Seattle, where they're building a 2.7 million square foot building in Seattle. That is 2 times the Columbia Tower, which is currently Seattle's tallest structure. I think it's also the tallest structure west of the Mississippi. And you know, Microsoft, 38 million square feet. So the directors of facilities, the leaders in these companies, the CEOs, they recognize the value of human interaction in supporting creative thought and innovation and shared ideas, breaking down silos in organizations for increased efficiencies. At Google, I say you can't schedule innovation, you can't schedule idea generation. These things have to come more organically. Steve Jobs says that there's magic sparked by serendipity. And if the building doesn't encourage collaboration, you're going to lose that. And I think Michael Ford at Microsoft said it really interestingly, where he said that they take on this challenge of planning and designing workspaces that reflect Microsoft experience and create an environment that enables the best employee productivity and creating that sense of community, which is where we started with the C of community. You should also talk about culture brand. And this goes back again to engagement. The physical space and culture brand goes beyond just the application of a logo on the wall in the elevator lobby or behind the reception desk. It is the opportunity to create a physical space that represents the character and the values and the ethos of the company. It shares that and demonstrates it to the employees, and it helps them walk the talk. You create space that supports a way of working that is valued by the company. And it allows the design to tell a story, to create an experience about who the company is, what the company's values are, and how they work. And again, in this day, we see it as a place that can demonstrate the employer's dedication to their employees and commitment to their employees because of their value. And they would demonstrate that this is a safe place, emotionally, physical well-being, so that everybody can do their best work. So as we look to the new normal and the role of our office spaces, the physical built environment, in doing business as usual going forward, we have to ask ourselves some questions. Do we have the IT systems in place to optimize remote work and remove as many barriers as possible? Do we have a change management strategy in place to communicate new expectations to employees about where and when they work, and communicate what are management's expectations about productivity, and communicating, are we no longer focused on presentism? What are the new measures of contribution and productivity? It isn't just being in the office. Is leadership prepared and ready to lead a distributed workforce, a distributed set of talent, and maintain that engagement and that sense of community over space? And the bottom line in all of this, has the organization assessed the strategic role of this physical work environment in their overall business operations and return on investment? So with that, we thank you very much for taking the time, and hopefully this may have raised some questions about the role of space in your organization. And I know everyone is really busy right now. There's so much changing so quickly, but if there's any way that we can help you go through these questions and come up with a strategic plan for your space and your business, please, we would welcome the opportunity to do that. So Jade, thank you very much.
Mary, thank you so much for putting that together for us. That was very informative, and our contact information is on that last slide. So if any of you have any questions for Mary, they can be directed straight to her, and we hope to see you in our next video. Thank you.
Thanks, Jade.